I coach just for fun with my kids' sports, right? I mean, I'm no good at it or anything, but I wouldn't want my kids doing that, and they'd be punished if they did. But the reality of it is, it's relatively harmless in the grand scheme of things, right?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, oh, okay, so he put his foot out and got somebody in the back of the knee. Like, what's the big deal here? It's not like they're, as you said, he's not sitting there drinking and driving. He's not sitting there taking dirty syringes and like hitting people like as they're driving by him or something. So
that's right. Oh, that's right.
Hey everyone, this is the last podcast for 2016. What an incredible year it's been. Just some stats for your knowledge. So in October, we had a total of 18,000 listens. And at that time, we thought that was awesome. In November, we had 22,000. And in this month, in December of 2016, not including today's release, we're already at 29,000 downloads for this month. We used to be on average around 1,000 to 1,500 downloads per episode, but now we're somewhere in the range of 2,500 to 5,500, almost reaching 6,000 depending on the guest. This has been so much fun, and we need more suggestions to keep guests coming on. So if you have anyone in mind that would be good, please send us an email. It's theduo, THEDUO @bourbonpursuit.com. And lastly, I got to thank everybody who supports us for this show. I know you've heard me say it for the past 6 months, and you're going to hear it from me again in 2017. But if you haven't supported us yet, please visit patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Bourbon Pursuit to learn more about all the cool swag such as t-shirts and koozies you get in return. Our sponsorship is what keeps this podcast going. Enjoy this week's episode.
Play Whiskey Wednesday Round 11, the memory game. Until June 26, each week you can win one of our 12 incredible grand prizes. Select 2 doors at checkout. And if they match on drawing night, you'll win that bottle. Not a match? No worries. You still score a Weller 12-year. Every $5 ticket gives you 5 chances to win, including 4 weekly bonus prizes. Get your tickets now at give270.org. Charitable Gaming License ORG 0002703.
Do you ever pour yourself a bourbon, swirl it around, and then start struggling to come up with tasting notes? And perhaps you're also looking for a good Father's Day gift idea. Well, you can now solve both with a kit from Knows Your Bourbon. And unlike other nosing kits on the market, Knows Your Bourbon kits feature real ingredients for the most authentic aromas. You can smell real Tahitian vanilla bean instead of some synthetic aroma that's just made from chemicals. So head on over to knowsyourbourbon.com. and enter code BP10 for 10% off your order. Ed Bly and Rising Tide Spirits are back again with a new release of Old Stubborn Bourbon. And this release of Old Stubborn is a premium hand marriage of 10, 11, and 12-year cask strength, barely filtered pot still bourbon. It comes in at a staggering 123.8 proof, and the flavoring grain for this one, which the last one was wheated, but this time it's now rye. Rich, sweet, and bold with a long finish that's sure to be another eye-opener. You can order online at Sealbox or thebourbonconcierge.com, and you can even purchase in person at Revival Vintage Spirits, and even now with very few select stores in Kentucky. You can get it now while you can, but be sure to do it because it's not going to last long. From their bar to yours, Chad and Sarah of the popular YouTube channel It's Bourbon Night bring you their favorite at-home old-fashioned mix with the new Elemental Elixir's Golden Hour Syrup. It's a custom-made syrup with notes of bold black tea, warm spices, and orange zest. All you need is your favorite whiskey and ice. No bitters needed. One bottle makes 16 drinks, so that's only $1 a cocktail before you add your own whiskey. They can also be enjoyed in other cocktails or spirits, mocktails, coffee, tea, and anything you can think of. It's crafted locally in Lexington, Kentucky, and you can get your bottle now at whiskeyambitions.com. Always find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from at the lowest price, it's easy to find your favorite Cabernet or a new single-barrel bourbon to try with some help from one of their friendly guides. And with every bottle comes the confidence of knowing you just found something amazing. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly and be 21.
Welcome back to the episode of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. Kenny and Ryan here today, and this is a pretty exciting episode for us. We are wrapping up the year, and we're wrapping it up on a big note. We've had, I guess I should say, Ryan and I, we have a affinity and sort of an attraction to everything Kentucky. But today is one of the major distilleries that are actually not inside of Kentucky, and I'm pretty excited because I've started hopping on the bandwagon. I've got a few bottles from this distillery that are in my basement now, and I'm kind of really excited to kind of hear the story behind it. So Ryan, kind of give us your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to Smooth Ambler and hear their story because I don't know much about them. I've had some excellent private barrel picks from them, of the old scouts from different liquor stores around the region, but just really excited to hear their story because I don't know much about them, but I think they're definitely becoming a player in the bourbon market.
I think so too. I think it's we're going to have a great conversation today, especially about how they are really starting to overshine and overtake a lot of the, I guess you'd say, the craft distilling movement and really be a huge player in this. So today I want to welcome to the show as John Little. John is the vice president and head distiller at Smooth Ambler. So John, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for taking your time out to come and talk to us today. So I want to kind of get this started with a question we ask pretty much everybody that comes on the show is give us a little history about you before you got into doing brown spirits.
Wow, that's the resume.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of everything. I grew up in North Carolina, went to school in North Carolina, Charlotte. And my wife is from West Virginia, and the brief history of that is we met about 23 years ago or something. I was young. I was 21 years old when we met, and she has family here in West Virginia. So when my daughter was born, 2001, late 2002, we kind of had a crazy idea that she wanted to be close to her folks, and we just on the drop of a hat, thank you. On the drop of a hat, we decided we were going to move to West Virginia. So, really in a very short amount of time, we both quit our jobs, moved up here so she could be close to family and that my kid could have a very different lifestyle than what we had in Charlotte. This is a small town. It's about 3,500 people in the town, about guys, from a big area. The whole county here has about 35,000 people. So a very different living scenario than what we had previously. And so that's really how I ended up in West Virginia. I've been here since 2002. So 14 and a half years or something. I've been in West Virginia, and this is really what I call home now. And so I was here, and I did a few things with my father-in-law. I was in business with him doing a variety of other things. But the thing that I loved the most was I was basically like a high-end purchasing agent. So I procured furniture and fixtures and things of that nature for hotels and resorts across the country. And we had that business going on called Tag Signature. We had that business going on for about 5 or 6 years. And when the crash of 2008 happened, that pretty much ended our business, right? Then nobody was spending money in that world anymore. For a while, for a couple of years before that, so maybe from 2005 to 2006 to 2008, we were always trying to look at a way to bring business into our community, right? So small community, a really, really wonderful place to live. Lewisburg, the town that we're closest to about 4 miles away, was named the coolest small town in America. About 5 or 6 years ago. It is a really, really interesting place to live with a lot of cool things to do here. Lots of art, lots of culture in such a small town. And so we really wanted to create something here that added value to the people here. So we looked at all sorts of ideas. We looked at making furniture, making fabric, doing customer service, all sorts of really interesting ideas. And in March of 2008, my father-in-law, who I was in this purchasing business with, who's an architect, he put an article from Time magazine in my box. He read that on a flight from Denver back to Lewisburg, and it talked about the growth of the micro distilling business. And it turns out Tuttletown, which is one of the first people that ever really had a successful business and then sold to someone much larger. They were the focus of that article. And he tore that out. He wrote a little smart ass comment in the upper right-hand corner of that article that said, "We can do this in your garage." And he put it into my box. And I read the article and pretty much instantly fell in love with it. And did some research, just doing some Google search. And I found out that there was a conference called the ADI, which is now a fairly big organization that had a conference. Yeah, the ADI had a conference about 10 or 12 days later. So it was maybe at the end of March is when I got the article, and 10 days later, beginning of April, I was in Louisville, touring Vendome and touring Four Roses and touring a variety of folks in the business. And pretty much in 2 days, I just fell in love with the whole idea. So I had kind of a varied background. I have worked on cars to pay my way through college. I was in the drink business. I've messed with, sweating pipe and doing mechanical work. I also bartended, also took accounting classes. So my capabilities were sort of all over the place. I was the jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing. I always felt like that hurt me until I found the distilling business. And I felt like I was made for this business. And that sounds really crazy, but I feel like that's one of the things that has really happened to me in this experience, is that I felt like I found my calling in life. So I was never the best at doing any one thing, but it really enabled me to run a small business fairly well. And so I took care of a little bit of the accounting, and I know how to take care of the TTB compliance stuff, and I know how to track proof gallons and how all that stuff's done. And I also have known how to fix mechanical issues as they've come around. And I think it's been a real blessing for me to have found that in my life. And what I always thought was a weakness, I think turned out to be a strength. And pretty much that's how we ended up in the distilling business. That's how we ended up where we are here. That's my long-winded. You said I could be long-winded. That's my long-winded.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the most unique story to start a distillery I've ever heard in my life. That's awesome. I
agree. What were some of those? You said you went to that conference and you toured Four Roses. What were some of the, I guess, some more of the inspirations behind it, right? I mean, you had these ideas for businesses and all that sort of thing, but is there more inspiration that was behind it when you got to see Four Roses, see their distilleries, and you said, I could do this. I see what they're doing. There's great tradition, great history, and all this other kind of stuff that's focused around it as well.
Look, we're not going to talk bad about any of those guys, but every time you tour any one of those distilleries, they all say that they're the oldest something. They're the oldest continuous. They're the oldest in a certain county, right? The reality
it's the
of
same old spiel every time.
Yeah, right. They all of them are the oldest of something, and the reality of it is they make all of those guys make really good distillate, right? We never fast forward a little bit. We never tried to say that, it was us versus the big guys, right? The miracle is not only that they make such good juice, but that they make so damn much of it and that it's so good. So no matter which distillery you go to, all those guys make really, really good distillate. I was less thrilled with the marketing angle, the story of how long I've been doing it, the dream marketing story. I was less thrilled with that than I was with the mechanical nature of it. Vendome is really what really sold me on it. When I walked into Vendome, I felt like, man, right, this is Willy Wonka here. This is it. And
you're like an engineer at heart then.
I guess I like things that are mechanical. I like the fact that it was, I knew instantly that it was a little bit about creating a business and creating opportunity for people here and to have a really cool thing. But it also spoke to my mechanical nature and sort of my numbers. I mean, all the people that you talk to on the production side, who are all really wonderful to each other in the bourbon business. Everybody I know who works in production treats the other people in production, no matter where they work, whether they work for their competitor or whatever, they're really wonderful to each other. It's a small industry, right? And I love the fact that they're all numbers oriented and the science of it. We've always used that term, whiskey nerd. And I don't say that as like a mean thing. I say that as a badge of honor. And all of these people, they're whiskey nerds. I mean, if you talk to anybody who works in production, they geek out about everything, about yeast and aldehydes and copper exposure and dwell time and proof. And I mean, pick any term you want to do it. These people are serious about their job. They take everything to the nth degree. They're obsessive. All of that obsessive mechanical number thing really speaks to what I love.
So you have a lot of Legos when you're a kid?
My kid has a lot of Legos. That's right.
Erector sets.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So how did you learn about the distilling process? Because it sounds like you didn't have any background in it.
I didn't, and to be quite honest with you, I was very, very green. I took a couple of workshops. These are small things, but I took a couple of workshops at Michigan State University. They had an artisan distilling program. So I went and did a couple of those. I went and worked in a friend's distillery. They'd only been open about a year and a half when I had the idea. It's called Dry Fly. They're in Spokane, Washington. They've become friends of ours. And really, I've used this saying a couple of times, and it's kind of the truth, which is the old saying, it takes a village to raise a family. It sort of took a village to raise this distillery. So we called everybody. We called yeast suppliers, grain suppliers, equipment suppliers, pretty much anybody who would pick up the phone, we spoke to. Todd Leopold at Leopold Brothers in Denver. He was a big inspiration and a big help for us. He's been somebody who has always helped me from the get-go when I had a fermentation issue or a production question or what do I do about whatever. He's always been there as a resource. And then about 5 years ago, we hired a guy named Larry Ebersold. And most people don't know Larry, but Larry was the master distiller for the Seagram's facility in Indiana for about 25 years. He's about as sharp as in the whiskey business as anybody out there. And so he's been doing some consulting work with us for a number of years. I had a yeast issue one time. I called our yeast suppliers. He put me on the phone with a nutrient supplier who put me on the phone with the master distiller for Black Velvet. And right, this was 5 or 6 years ago when we were small, and I'm over here making 30 gallons of vodka, and this guy's making 300,000 gallons of some spirit, and I'm on the phone with him. It must have been a complete pain in the neck for him, but the people out there, they're willing to help. They're willing to share their knowledge, and I think all of those factors enabled us to be where we are today. And to be quite honest with you, we still have a ways to go. We continue to improve every single day. We try our best to get better every day. And I was on the phone with Larry last night about something I wanted to tweak. And of course, our recent partnership with the Pernod family with NBV, that's going to enable us to also speak to blenders, to master distillers, to engineers and their other locations. And that's going to give us resources that we haven't had before. And that's only going to allow us to be better at what we do. Well,
cool. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We'll kind of touch on that subject, but I kind of want to talk a little bit more about, when you're sitting here and doing the exploring and you're learning through all this whole process, you saw that, a lot of the big players where Ryan and I are located here in Kentucky. So what was your initial reaction to saying like, well, we can start this in West Virginia and then we'll kind of see what happens?
Now I think it was a really stupid thing to do, and we got lucky.
Got lucky.
It's a challenge. It's been a challenge. We made some mistakes along the way, right? We tried to do the small barrel thing. For us, it doesn't work. It's the whiskey gets too much wood and not enough time for oxidation. It's not balanced for us. So we tried that. It didn't really work for us. I'm not really sure. I think I had really good partners. It was my father-in-law and Tag Gallion, and then one other guy named Greg Parsegan, and they always believed in us. And so we kept trying to improve. And in hindsight, it's really kind of a crazy thing to do because you're going up against the biggest, most skilled people with hundreds of years of experience, right? Combined experience, and it's a monumental task to try to make whiskey better than the Four Roses of the world or the Buffalo Trace of the world.
I guess one thing that we didn't really talk on and kind of touch on it, talk about Smooth Ambler for a bit and some of the offerings that you all have as well.
So we started off making vodka and gin and then making whiskey in our whatever spare time, when we had down distillation time. So we still make vodka and gin. We make a barrel-aged gin, and we make about 4 different mash recipes for whiskey. Primarily, we make a wheated bourbon. We make a rye bourbon, a rye whiskey, and a wheat whiskey. That's predominantly what we make. We will probably scale that back to 2 or 3 recipes in 2017. And then we've done some experimental things over the past. What really is on the shelf now is vodka, gin, barrel-aged gin, and then the Old Scout line. And we started that about 5 years ago. So we originally brought out Old Scout bourbon, and then we had the Old Scout rye, which is now gone. We have Contradiction, which is a blend of our yearling and a low rye, the Old Scout 10. So we got kind of crazy there for a while where we had so many products. What we're most famous for, obviously, is Old Scout, the single barrels, and Contradiction. Those are our, and now Old Scout American whiskey. Those are our most popular items.
Cool. I want to talk on those here in a minute, but talk about the Contradiction for a minute, because I remember, I think when it was first introduced, it might have been like 2 years ago, something like that. It might have been first introduced.
Yeah.
And I remember people going crazy over it. So kind of talk about the blend. I'm not familiar with the term yearling, so kind of talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so the first whiskey that we ever made was a wheated bourbon, and we brought it out when it was in small barrels. We brought it out when it was about a year old, and it's continued to get older and older and older. So it's an age-stated bourbon, but there's no straight on the label. It's actually all straight now, but we basically just kept getting our batches older. So I think the first batch we had was maybe 9 or 10 months old in small barrels. And then we brought out something that was like a year and 2 months or a year and 3 months. And now I think most of the yearling bottles are 3 years, 3.5 years, 3 years, 10 months, something like that. It was what we made when we weren't making vodka and gin 5 or 6 years ago. We'll stop selling yearling when our new properly mature wheated bourbon comes out. So we had yearling. It was intended to be a temporary thing. And then we wanted to have a mature spirit that we brought out, which is now we just call Smooth Ambler wheated bourbon. We'll bring it out right after the first of the year, we think. It's finally time to release it. It's 5 to 6 year old whiskey, all in full size 53-gallon barrels. So we've made yearling for a long time, and we've continued to grow the production of that spirit with 2 plant expansions. So we expanded in 2011, right after a year after we opened, and then we expanded again last year when we went to a continuous column. So we had the yearling that we made that we've made for a long time, and then we had Old Scout bourbon. And then one of the other which is a high rye bourbon. And then about a year and a half after we brought out Old Scout bourbon, we brought out a 10-year-old low rye bourbon, also from Indiana. So we had Old Scout bourbon, the Old Scout 10, 2 different recipes. And I had an inspiration from the Parker Heritage Master Distiller's blend of mash bills.
Ooh, my favorite.
I was about to say, you touched
my all-time favorite
spot right there.
Yeah, it's a great product, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And so I wanted to see if we could do that. And so we played around with a bunch of different recipes, blending the high rye and the low rye and the yearling, which is this wheated bourbon that we produce in-house. And ultimately, we made about 4 or 5 recipes, blends, mingles, mingling, marriages, whatever you want to really call it. I say blend, but I think the proper term is mingling because we're not diluting it down with NGS. But we made a couple of these marriages, and we sent them off we had our favorite, and we sent them off to 2 or 3 people whose opinion we think or palates we think are really good. And they all picked the same blend. And so what it became was it was 73% low rye bourbon from Indiana that was at least 9 years old, with 27% wheated bourbon from West Virginia that was at least 2 years old. And we mingle those together, and then we put them back into the same. We mingle them together, and then we, without without filtering anything. We put them right back into the same barrels that they came out of. So we don't finish them. They're just going right back into the same barrels that they came out of. And they stay together for anywhere from 2 to 4 months. And then we dump them and do a slight filtration on them to remove bits of the barrel, and then put them into a bottle. And so our first batches were delicious. We're really, really proud of them, but we've also got better at blending. We also know we have a few tricks about how we mingle those things and about how they stay in the barrels. And so I think our Contradiction has gotten better over time, just as we've gotten better as distillers and we've gotten better as blenders over time. And of course, people tell us that they can taste the young juice in there, and you hear all sorts. And if you read Reddit, if you're a distiller and you read Reddit, well, you better be prepared to hear every negative comment in the world.
It's like an author reading Amazon reviews.
Exactly right. It's a hard thing to get. It's a hard thing to get over, which is when you make something that is available for public consumption, a lot of people aren't going to like it. And the old joke that I always say here is, half the people in the world don't like Pepsi, but they've figured out how to make it work pretty well, it seems. But what was really good for us is, we sent that product into last year. We sent it and the single barrel into the World Whiskey Awards. And we didn't pick a cherry barrel. We didn't pick specific blends of Contradiction that were better than the others. The reality of it was, this is a really cool story. So I was trying to find out exactly where Contradiction fit in the competition. Were they going to consider it a blended, even though it's a blend of straight bourbons? And so I was trying to get some feedback from them. And sort of at the last minute, they came back and said, hey, we're just going to put it in the bourbon category, because it really is. There's just 2 straight bourbons, right? One from Indiana and one from West Virginia. And so we submitted it and the single barrel. And I literally went into our sample room, pulled the first 2 single barrels that had the same barrel number and 2 bottles of Contradiction, dropped them in a box and shipped them over to the competition. And that's when we won World's Best Single Barrel. And that was really good for our business and good for marketing. But we were more proud of the fact that the Contradiction went up against the best in the whiskey business and won a gold medal. It was one of 5 gold medals given at the World Whiskey Awards. And probably more proud of anything that I've ever been. That was probably the most proud of anything that we've ever done here in terms of an award, because we made a piece of it. The blend was our idea. The actual blending, the mingling, that we do all that in-house. And so it felt like that was more about what our future was about. And so we were really, really excited to go up against the big boys and perform well.
That's awesome. That's a great story behind it.
Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point of sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. Shopify's point of sale is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. And with Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers in-line and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns, from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. And get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone. Transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system, or use Shopify's point-of-sale Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/bourbon, all lowercase, and go to shopify.com/bourbon to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bourbon. If you're anything like me, then you can't get enough about bourbon. And that's why I'm a subscriber to Bourbon Plus magazine. Bourbon Plus is a quarterly publication that tells the stories from the heart of bourbon, the farmers who grow the grain, the distillers who labor over the process, and the people like you and me who raise their glasses to celebrate it all. Subscribe to Bourbon Plus magazine today at bourbonplus.com, that's PLUS.com, and use code PURSUIT at checkout for $5 off your subscription.
I also want to kind of talk about some of the names that you kind of guarded up behind this as well. Old Scout, Contradiction, the word Smooth Ambler. Like, what's the meaning behind a lot of these?
So, yeah, these are good questions. So when we were trying to figure out the name, the working name of the distillery was something like Greenbrier Distillers or something, Greenbrier County Distilleries. That was just our working name when we first had the project. And so we wanted to come up with something that spoke to all of us, all the owners here. And so we came up, we hired a marketing company to help us, and some of it was just brainstorming, and they actually came up with the name Amble. We were looking at something that spoke to us and spoke to the region, and a horse that ambles. An amble is a gait between a walk and a run. And immediately when we heard it, we loved it because, that people think that people from West Virginia are just a bunch of dumb hicks, and of course some of us
coal
are.
Miners.
Yeah, a bunch of coal miners, but the reality of it is that most people here are making a choice to live in West Virginia because that they love it. They love something about being here. They love this pace of life, and so. But it really meant a lot to us. We're not quite a walk, not quite a run. We're somewhere in between, and this is the pace that we love life. And so, Smooth Ambler became a really important thing to us. Now, we rejected it for about 4 months. And the reason we rejected it now seems very small, but there's a very prominent family where we live called the Amblers, and their last name is Ambler. And I just didn't want there to be a tie-in to them, not because we love them, but just because we didn't want people to get confused or for them to feel like they were being infringed on, right? And the reality of it is we just told them that we hope they liked it, and we did it anyway. After about 4 months of struggle,
deal with it.
Deal with it.
Yeah,
and,
you always ask for forgiveness, not permission, right?
Yeah, that's right. And the reality of it is, outside of Lewisburg, nobody knows, right? And it's only important in this little bitty town or in this little bitty region. And it turns out that they have kids that are about the same age as my kids, and so we see them at all sorts of sporting events. They're really wonderful people. They've been supportive of us. His wife likes to joke. His wife named Linda, who is my son's little teacher. I mean, this is like America in 1950s, right? So. His wife Linda is my son's teacher, and she says that she just wants enough commission or royalties residuals to go buy a nice pair of shoes once a year
in perpetuity.
Yeah, they're really wonderful. They're really wonderful folks. So when we were developing that name, Smooth Ambler, there were two other names that we came up with. One of which I'm not going to tell you. I'm sorry, but I keep that secret because it's so bad. The other one is actually Old Scout. Old Scout was a name we were looking at for the distillery. So we had no intention of buying whiskey, of sourcing whiskey. But when that became an option and we were like, oh, we're sourcing this stuff out, John Foster, our sales guy, who is brilliant. He does all of the wordsmith work. So the back of the label, anything that we write as a press release, anything we put on social media is pretty much coming out of John's mouth. And he said, Old Scout is teed right up for this. He goes, we scouted it out. We sourced it out. This is what we do. And it couldn't have been more of a home run for us. And so it was sort of just sitting there on deck. It felt like fate for it to be sitting there and for it to be, as it turns out, right, the part that we've made our business out of.
I bought a buddy of mine a bottle of Old Scout because his dog was named Scout. And that's why I bought it. So there you go.
Perfect.
He appreciates your business, Ryan.
Yeah.
So exactly.
This was a kind of a pretty good question that came up on one of the forums. And, the one thing that we like to see is that you're very transparent, right? You don't sit there and hide the fact that, you source it from MGP and you got it from Indiana. And that's awesome. And then Ryan Lintz brought up a question that says, well, why does Smooth Ambler's MGP source bourbon taste so much better than others? Is it because it's bottled at Cask Strength, or is it just a mental thing because everybody's jumping on the hype train for the single barrels?
Wow, I'm treading in some dangerous water now. Well, first of all, thank you. We try to be very transparent. We want to be that way in our personal lives and our business lives. We want to be honest folks, right? For good or bad, we want to be open and honest and shoot people straight.
Nobody wants a reenactment of Templeton Rye. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay away from that comment. So, I think what makes our product different is the fact that a couple of things, and I really believe this. We are very good about leaving the original flavor intact. So we don't chill filter. We have a very specific filtration method that we use that basically we believe just removes the bits of the barrel to make sure there's no, you can strain char off of a screen and still have all sorts of little, like almost like charcoal dust, right? And we have a way that we think that removes that very well and still leaves lots of flavor in the spirit. You can over filter anything, right? We're very, very careful about that. And we've worked with it, excuse me, for a number of years. We're obsessive about our water. And I know everybody is obsessive about our water, but we have a sediment filter and a carbon filter and 3 reverse osmosis filter and a water deionizer and a UV light. And so we take water that is 150 parts per million of dissolved solids, and we take it down to 0.1 parts per million of dissolved solid. It's about as pure and clean as any water I've ever had. And we all drink it here. We use it in the tasting room. Some of our employees actually have their own bottles that they fill them up here at work and then take them and use them at water coolers at home. It's delicious, and I do think it matters. So I think it's all of those things.
Good deal.
On the aging process too, right?
Yeah, well, most of that stuff's stored at MGP where other people store spirits. Some of those
gotcha.
Some of those barrels are stored here for as much as 2 or 3 years, and that might have something to do with it. We think there might be a tie into basically aging in Indiana and then finishing in West Virginia, but I can't be certain that that's real. I don't have evidence to say that is 100% accurate, but we feel like it has something to do with it.
Every tour you go on around here, they're always like, oh, Kentucky's the best for aging bourbon because of the hot summers and the cold winters. But West Virginia is pretty much on the same line as us, right? The variable amount of fluctuations you have in your weather is pretty much on par with what Kentucky has as well.
Yeah, I think
just
that's
get
right.
a day later.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is right. When y'all get a storm, we get it a day later. Everything. The reality of it is we're about 2,200 feet. So we're cooler than most of Kentucky. Greenbrier County is. And so I think we're 7 degrees cooler, something like that, than Kentucky. We have done a few things to help with that. We do think that you guys have a little bit hotter summers that we're jealous of. And then when people in Kentucky build multi-story rick houses, those top floors get really, really hot. Everything we use is single story. So the last rick house we built, the last 3 rick houses we built are all black. So they're black roof, black sides. And so those buildings are actually, and they're turned in a direction which gets better sunlight. And so I think that'll help us get the higher temperatures that we want to create. We wish we were 5 to 7 degrees warmer, and I think we're going to get that in our new buildings.
Oh, get a little bit of climate change that's going to happen with, President Trump being in here, but he's not going to worry about it. So I'm sure that you're going to have no problem seeing some warmer summers here going along.
I think that's a trend.
So you already hinted at the fact that the Old Scout rye is pretty much done with right now. And it seems like at this point, they just can't get enough of the Old Scout single barrel picks. So is that something that you're going to be continuing on for a while? Because it seems like there's just a huge demand in the market.
We'll be doing... No, we'll do some of that. We won't do as much as we've done in the past. But the reality of it is it's not a situation that's, about the new deal that we've just made. It's about the fact that this business has been wildly successful, more than we ever dreamed. And quite frankly, we were behind. I'm behind. It's my fault by not buying new make or buying whiskey at a greater rate. And so we are running out of product to make the single barrels and the custom barrel picks. And we're going to have to do something about that in the new year to change that. I say that they are suspended, not discontinued. We're buying new make, and we're buying 1 to 2 to 3 year. We're buying whatever we can find. We're buying juice that we think is good quality in order to support the line in the future. It might take us 2 years to get back on track, or even 3 years, but we're buying product now. We're making more product now. We're going to continue to make more product, but we're also buying distillate so we can get back on track with the Old Scout Rye, with the Old Scout Bourbon, or at least products similar to that. So we're doing both, and we're trying to catch up. But at some point in time, we're going to have a supply issue.
What about the very Old Scout? Are we going to see that ever again?
There's a chance you might see it in 14 or in 17.
All right.
Mhm.
So
All right.
everybody take note. It's going to be a mad rush.
Probably gonna be camping out.
it's Kentucky is what we do. So
Yep.
you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, and it was the biggest news as of late. It was back on December 8th, was that Pernod Ricard has taken a majority stake in your company. So first off, congratulations. I hope that means there's going to be a new Ferrari in your driveway soon. But what else does that mean for you as a business?
Well, first, I don't have a new Ferrari in my drive. It's kind of funny because all of my friends have been saying the same thing. The reality of it is, last Tuesday and Wednesday, I think I worked 16 hours a day. So it didn't seem like it was getting any easier for me. It means a lot for us. So I already spoke a little bit about what it means from the technical side of it. But, as a small business owner, it's hard to be in charge of human resources and in charge of safety and taxes and all the things that go along with being a business owner. And at some point in time, it becomes more about running the business than it does about making whiskey and selling whiskey. And this partnership gives us the resources to what I alluded to earlier. It gives us the resources to make more distillate here, to add more jobs here, and to give opportunity to both our existing employees and people in the community who might otherwise not have those opportunities. It allows us to buy more distillate from MGP. It allows us to go to market with an experienced, a very experienced team. But most importantly for us, it gives us the resources to that the back office part, the technical part of what we do, the stuff that we don't like to do really, accounting, taxes, compliance, whatever that is. Somebody else does that, and that's their full-time job. And we have the ability to go focus on what we want to do, which is to, as I said, is to make whiskey and sell whiskey. And that's the part that we want to do. And this partnership gives us the ability to do that. We couldn't be more thrilled with the people that we have here. The people that we know that work for, this is the company that's buying into Smooth Ambler is an affiliate of Pernod called NBV. But everybody that we know that works for NBV, they're good people. They like the organization. They have family values like we do. The reality of it is they really want to leave us alone and let us do what we do and give us the resources to be successful. And that's the part that thrilled us. In the first week of January, me and Andrew Robinson, who's our processing manager, and Paul Jackson, who's our production manager, the three of us fly to Hiram Walker in Canada, and we meet with the director of operations for North America, for Pernod North America, and a team of people. And so we get to ask questions to people that we wouldn't even know without this relationship. And so we're just really excited about what this means for our whole team and how much better we can make our product, how much better we can be in the future.
Well, that's
awesome. You think they would want to buy a lawn and pest control company? I hate doing all that shit also. Back office shit.
You know what? They might want to diversify.
Exactly.
And it really is awful, isn't it? I mean, how much time do you spend doing stuff that really doesn't improve?
Oh, non-revenue producing. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly right. Non-revenue producing. Stuff that doesn't help your business.
Well, it's great.
Yep, exactly.
Well, we're kind of running the top of the hour. So, John, I do want to say thank you for coming on the show today and kind of sharing your story behind it. I also want to probably extend a big thank you to everybody in the bourbon community for having your dad pull out that magazine article and put it in front of you, because
yeah,
I think what you guys have done is nothing short of incredible. You have almost a cult following, I guess you could say, and with that, it spreads. I can say for myself, a year and a half ago, people were like, "You got to try this stuff," and I was like, West Virginia, MGP, whatever. I'm not even going to try it. And then probably 6 months ago, 6 months ago, I was like, I tried it for my first time. I was like, okay, I'm a believer. Now I got 3 bottles in my basement. So it's definitely something that, I'm starting to jump on the bandwagon as much as anybody else. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I tell you, you're exactly right. I feel like we have the best fans in the business. We have a great relationship with all of them. We have a great crew here that really treats everybody like family when they come here. And we're really, really proud of that relationship. I try to be active on Facebook, and so does the rest of our team, so that people feel like they can really connect to us. And that's important. We want people to feel like we're not some cold corporation. We're all really here trying to make whiskey and support our families, just like everyone, just like all you guys are doing the same thing too. And it really means a lot for you to say that. Really, we're proud of what we make, and we're proud of the relationship we have with everybody who supports us, and it means a lot.
Awesome. So if anybody does want to get in contact with you, John, or they kind of want to know more about your story, whether you're on Twitter or the Facebook groups or anything like that, how could they ask you a question?
Well, you can go to Smooth Ambler on Facebook. You can do Twitter, same thing. It's all Smooth Ambler. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're all there. I do a little bit of that. Some other folks here do a little bit of that. I try to be available by anybody who sends me a message on Facebook. Or you can call the distillery. It's really simple.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm glad you have those Twitter accounts, and that the Amblers in town, their teenage son didn't take it, thinking he was right. Awesome. And also follow anything Bourbon Pursuit on social media as well. Twitter and Instagram at Bourbon Pursuit, Facebook.com/Bourbon Pursuit. And if you do like what you hear, make sure you support the show on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Bourbon Pursuit.
Yep. Thanks, John, again. Appreciate your time. I used to think the only good thing that come out of West Virginia was Patrick Patterson for UK basketball. But
I was going to say Bob Huggins
Smooth
is
Ambler.
a pretty popular name too, right? So they're this, yeah.
Yeah, he's a celeb here, man.
Yeah.
For sure. But no, what y'all are doing is awesome, and I'm looking forward to the Very Old Scout in 2017. If you could, when we end this, just let us know when it's coming out, and we'll plan accordingly.
I said maybe. Yeah. Well, guys, I really appreciate it. Seriously, thanks for having me. This has been great. This has been really low key and very relaxing. I really appreciate it.
We try to make it that way.
All right. Well, y'all have a good holiday, and we'll see you next time.